When the US and Israel struck Iran, President Donald Trump stated the operation would finish very fast. Instead, 100 days later, we see those initial military strikes have triggered a sprawling, fully entrenched global crisis. Across the region, the human toll is staggering. Preliminary figures confirm at least 7,000 people have been killed, with casualties spanning Iran, Lebanon, Israel, and the Gulf states. Inside Iran, the original target of the offensive, US and Israeli bombardments systematically dismantled key civilian infrastructure. In just the first 2 weeks of the war, more than 3 million Iranians were forced to flee their homes. A military operation sold to the public as precise and contained immediately sprawled outward, plunging the entire region into a severe humanitarian catastrophe. That physical expansion hit Lebanon almost immediately. Spilling over the border, aggressive bombardments displaced over 1 million Lebanese civilians from their towns and villages. The Israeli military claimed their objective was to clear fighters south of the Litani River, but their forces pushed much further north, executing forced displacement orders all the way to the Zahrani River, a full 10 kilometers past their stated boundary. This deep advancement means Israeli forces now occupy roughly 2,000 square kilometers of Lebanese territory. That is 20% of the entire country. By June 1st, advancing troops reached the outskirts of Nabatea and captured Beaufort Castle, marking the deepest military push into Lebanon in over 25 years. The military operation has overwritten the borders of the Levant, replacing international boundaries with a new, standing reality of physical occupation. The physical ground war only accounts for the immediate destruction. Look at this map of the Persian Gulf. Here, between Iran and Oman, sits the Strait of Hormuz, the single most critical vulnerability in the global economy. This narrow, inescapable passage operates as a vital artery for international trade. Before the war, 1/5 of the entire world's oil and gas supply flowed through these waters. This chart tracks daily commercial shipping traffic through the strait. In February, roughly 100 ships passed through every day. Since the conflict began, that number has plunged to an average of just 7. Hundreds of ships have been stranded, while others are forced into drastically longer voyage distances. This has severely reduced vessel availability on key global routes and driven freight rates through the roof. By successfully severing this single waterway, regional combatants weaponized the global supply chain, dragging the rest of the world into the interdonic fallout. Energy markets absorbed an immediate shock. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, spiked from $70 a barrel to a peak of nearly $120. This animated map shows the direct consequence for ordinary citizens. At least 146 countries have been forced to hike petrol prices at the pump. Drivers in Nigeria are paying 50% more, while in Myanmar, fuel costs have nearly doubled. There is also a hidden secondary threat. Natural gas is an essential raw material for global fertilizer production. As gas supplies tighten, fertilizer prices rise, moving in lockstep with global food costs, and creating a very real threat of worldwide food scarcity. Financial markets reacted violently. European and Asian stock indexes, particularly those like Japan's Nikkei, suffered massive single-day losses due to their heavy reliance on Gulf oil for energy-intensive industries. Yet in the United States, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ reached record highs. They were largely insulated from the physical war by a massive, entirely decoupled boom in artificial intelligence and semiconductor infrastructure. Beyond munitions and troop movements, the war extracts a daily toll from billions of civilians living far from the battlefield through soaring grocery bills, gas receipts, and economic anxiety. With the global economy straining, the search for an exit strategy led here, to Islamabad, Pakistan, where the United States and Iran agreed to a brokered 2-week ceasefire in early April. The pause was intended to be an off-ramp. It offered a window to reopen diplomatic channels, negotiate peace terms, and finally unblock the Strait of Hormuz. But the talks collapsed almost instantly. Negotiations disintegrated over the nuclear question, compounded by a deep historical mistrust between the two nations. The U.S. president preferred a simplistic approach, demanding agreements sketched out on the back of a napkin, rather than detailed, professionally hammered-out treaties. He dismissed Iran's counterproposal as garbage, effectively sabotaging any chance of a workable compromise. The institutional mechanisms designed to halt a global catastrophe have broken down, leaving the crisis stalled in a state of diplomatic gridlock. Now, at the 100-day mark, the reality is clear. The ceasefire is dead, the naval blockades remain active, and all initial promises of a quick resolution are void. The region bears permanent scars. Millions of civilians remain displaced, while Israeli forces continue to hold 20% of Lebanese territory. Meanwhile, the rest of the globe faces the looming threat of an economic recession. Elevated energy costs, high freight rates, and expensive fertilizers are threatening to become a permanent baseline. The failure to contain a localized military strike has done exactly what experts feared. It has indefinitely strapped the entire world with a devastating, inescapable economic tax.